When I was a small boy, this was my absolutely favorite time of the year. Because, of course, Santa Claus is coming to town, right? Obviously, I've grown and I possess a smidgen of wisdom, and this is still my favorite time of the year, but for very, very different reasons. Now, when you were younger, is it safe to assume that you experienced the exact same situation that I experienced every time I anticipated something? It took forever to get here. I remember sharing that with my grandmother. I was a young boy. And my grandmother, in all her wisdom, said, "Don't worry, when you get older, time flies very quickly." Isn't that true? This really is my favorite time of the year. The season of Advent is pregnant, is filled with expectant hope and joy. Unfortunately, this year, we're gypped. Advent should be four weeks. Yet this year, it's a mere 23 days. And so, we need to do our best to cling to that hope that Advent speaks about. Because I realize that sometimes there are situations in life, my own life, situations I deal with trying to assist people or just listening to people, where I feel like hope is, to a certain extent, non-existent. But hope is the greatest gift that the Christian possesses. Nothing and no one can take it away from us. Yet, it can be tarnished, it can be very dim, and that's why, instead of preaching on the scriptures this weekend, this first Sunday of Advent, I would like to give us all an Advent pep talk. Okay? Now, one of the most visible symbols of Advent is obviously the Advent wreath, which, believe it or not, doesn't belong in church. It belongs on your dining room table or your coffee table. But we have it here as a reminder of the season that we're in. And obviously, and if you had been here at the 8 o'clock Mass, believe me, it was dark in here. We needed the light. But as the weeks progress, one candle becomes 2, and then 3 and 4. And that light shines a bit brighter for those of us who are clinging to hope, trying to find it in our loud world, in our world that seems to need hope. One of the ways that I know I personally grow in my own appreciation for how I hope and for what I hope is by doing something that is very, very, very difficult. The only way we can grow in hope is by relinquishing a little bit of that precious commodity that all of us have. We don't seem to have enough of it, and we're very hesitant to give it up. Time. Absolutely. These brief days of Advent, it is our time to give God the gift of ourselves. And the more time that we give to God, and I know you're looking at me saying, "Don't you know how busy I'm going to be in the next 3.5 weeks?" Yes, I do, because I'm going to be busy with you. But we can't get that tendency when we're little children of just skipping Advent entirely, worrying about the trees and the parties and those special holiday recipes. That's important to a certain extent, sure, and there's a place for that. But right now, 23 days, we have to grow as a people who hope. Because I know that present here this morning are those that didn't even want to get out of bed. That's right. That's because sometimes we don't have a reason. Sometimes we seem to not have any hope. And so join me in giving a little extra time this Advent season. You're going to be the one who is beneficiary of the great gifts that God has to give to you and to me. Might I offer just a few suggestions? It can only be a few because Advent's so brief. Perhaps if you have the gift of time to join us here one morning out of the week for morning mass. Perhaps instead of that, if you can't do it, pick up the readings for the day. Muse on the Advent readings that are just so full of joy and hope. Perhaps tomorrow you might consider stopping by church and giving a bit of time, praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament that'll be exposed. Or if you're working all day but free by 5, join us for evening prayer, Vespers, and benediction. There are so many ways that we can give our time. And even though sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge, it's not impossible. Time is a great commodity. And I all realize that we're busy people. But when we give our gift of time to God, God abundantly blesses us with whatever gifts he knows that we truly need. I pray for our parish during this brief Advent season that each of us will be renewed in a sense of hope and joy, because we all could use a little extra these days. And so join me in praying. Come, Lord Jesus. Come now. Come quickly and do not delay. And with that, happy Advent.